611 Films YouTube channel. We are back in 99. My name is David Groves, one of your hosts. With me as always,
Snoochie Boochies!
Snoochie Boochies.
Snoochie Boochies. Who the fuck talks like that? That is fucking baby talk.
If you can't tell by the thumbnail, we're obviously doing Dogma. Kevin Smith film.
So you always look for a superlative to put on the thing, like the most movie. This is going to be mine. This is the best Kevin Smith film of all.
Oh, okay.
So and you just said to me before we did this, you're like, and I'm like, wow, because I thought a very ambitious movie. I love Chasing Amy. I loved Mallrats, Clerks, but I'm not taking anything away from those. But this just felt like more characters, more story, more obstacles.
Well, I've always said Jersey Girl is my favorite Kevin Smith film. What the fuck? If you don't know me, it's always. I'm kidding. It's a joke. I'm kidding.
Come on, man.
I mean, I've always said I would say Clerks is probably my favorite still of his. I would say I saw Dogma probably DVD back in the day when it came out. I was a fan of his. The college kid in me obviously had to see Clerks and the indie up and coming Kevin Smith, and it was lost on me with like the Catholic, like as a nice Jewish boy growing up. I think I just got lost in I don't get a lot of what they're talking about. That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I can see that, and I think Kevin Smith was Catholic or grew up Catholic. So pretty sure. Yeah. So, and I also went to a Catholic school when I was a kid. So some of this stuff kind of resonated with me as far as like, oh yeah, okay. But there was a lot of stuff like it's not like Loki and Bartleby. That's not a part of like, I don't know, like a common thing that people know about. I don't think. So it was kind of, some of that stuff was a little bit like, I don't know where he pulled that from. That's not necessarily
sure,
but I could kind of see that, but I don't know. Like I think I saw what he was kind of going for, which was, he was kind of poking the bear of
well, yeah, obviously he had a lot of issues, and we'll get into that as far as like the Catholic Church.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
Organizers in Eatontown had hoped for hundreds to join them in the protest against the movie Dogma. Instead, they got less than 24, but they were joined by this man. He wouldn't admit it, but he looked and sounded suspiciously like Dogma's writer, director, co-star, and New Jersey resident, Kevin Smith.
I don't know. See, I think that's a thing, like a misconception that he was denouncing it. I didn't really get the vibe that he was like, "Oh, you're stupid for believing this or this is wrong." Well, no, but like I think that's what people thought, and I think he's just kind of like he had underlying all of it, like a very good message, which is like basically what Chris Rock says in the thing. It's like ideas are good, beliefs are tricky, like because and people cling on to these things, and they're just like dead set in their ways, and it's like if you start saying like, "Hey, what about this? What about this?" and then people lose their mind, and it's like.
Right.
What is the and that's all I think Kevin Smith was trying to do. It was like, hey, everybody, like, chill out, lighten up.
It's funny you brought up that the idea of like kind of like how I've done sort of the subjects or the S of the talk, the trickiest, or the like whatever I've said before with that, and I didn't know what to say because it's like I literally this is the talkiest Kevin Smith movie I've ever seen. And he only does really talky movies. Yeah. And it's just so funny because I'm like, I can get the idea of a Clerks and they're talking about bullshit and this or that. But there are scenes in this movie that just go on and they're just back and forth and this and talking. Yeah. And the religious aspects and all that stuff. That's where I think I got kind of lost sometimes. Where it's like, what's the point of that scene or where are we going here?
I do. I'm with you on that. There were some scenes that I felt a little long. Like the whatever when the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck go in and like murder the conference room people. Yeah, like I was like, okay, this doesn't need to be that long, especially for something that isn't that integral to like the main plot or what they're trying to do or what the other groups are. And there were like little things like it's like, okay, we get the joke, like you can move on.
Yeah, like the Salma Hayek thing of doing the
I was gonna say by the time
there's so many points where I'm like, if you had a better like cut of this, probably just chop down 15, 20 minutes of it. It's super talky. And then when you bring in a character and this is a prophet and this is a muse and this is they're fallen angels and he's the voice, it's like there's too much going on.
And it is interesting because I'm trying to put like my hat on from like 25 years ago, and I'm sure, I mean, if you went and released this in like the 1950s, like people would really lose their mind. I mean, he'd probably be literally crucified. But, you know, now in 2024, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't even think this would offend anybody nowadays. You know, I mean, it's sort of tame in comparison. But even at the time I saw it, I was like, oh, my God, this is like the typical like super Catholic person that just takes everything seriously. And they're just like, you know, it's like the people today that just want to be offended. And it's like, will you just like chill out and like, you know,
sure, yeah,
like you're and it's like if you take your religion and beliefs that seriously, like I think you're kind of missing the point. And I honestly looked at it and I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, I don't know what that there was a black apostle, or I'm sorry, that Jesus was black, or that God was a woman, or I mean, I don't know, like or the you know, the Buddy Christ, you know, that guy. Like I don't know what people got so up in arms about.
Again, I wouldn't say I didn't like it or disliked it. I just think there was just so much going on. It's one of those ensembles that sometimes it's starting to get lost. And I just think that cutting it down would have probably made it a little bit better. But, you know, and Kevin Smith is a very polarizing director, writer.
He is. And the thing I felt kind of after this was like, okay, now I felt like he had something to say in this movie. But he had messages and things, you know, like opinions. And then it kind of like, don't get me wrong, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, like, hey, fun and stuff like that. But it kind of never, like, it kind of just became silly again. And then he went into horror and all these other things. And I just kind of was like, oh, like I wish he did more things like Dogma than the things that he ended up doing. But he did have, I mean, this is I don't know if this is like the first time he had like studio money, but I mean, to get, you know, Chris Rock and Salma Hayek and Alan Rickman. And I mean, I know he had worked with Ben Affleck, you know, a couple times before, but this is now Ben Affleck and Matt Damon off of Good Will Hunting fame. Like,
sure,
you know, that was all that just happened. So, yeah, it just felt weird because it was like, I thought he was going in this kind of trajectory. And then it kind of felt like he sort of, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this. And then it sort of, like, then he kind of, I don't know. I think like after that, Zach and Miri made a porno. Like, I honestly don't even know, other than the horror movies he's done, like what the hell he's done in the last like 20 years. Like, he's just kind of like, he's got his huge fan base, but like, I don't know if I mean, do people even.
His podcast stuff was obviously, he got really big too with the podcasting, but before that, he was doing college tours and he almost became, you'd think he was a stand-up comedian. Yeah. He's now been pretty big and vocal about doing big tours with some of the like Red State and Tusk and some of those movies that have come out.
I mean, they've been a few
years, but
he was wildly entertaining on those college tours. I mean, I think we were watching.
Oh yeah, we've watched a couple.
DVDs
I think
back in the day.
I think he also had that heart attack, or like that's a lot about the idea of Clerks 3, where he almost died.
Yeah. There was some interesting stories about, you know, and then going back to Dogma, I guess him and Linda Fiorentino didn't get along very well, but when he had his heart attack, I guess she called him and checked in on him and they kind of patched things up and, you know, they made amends, like, you know, so that was kind of cool.
With Dogma, sure. I'd say check it out. And for the holiday season, whatever. I think when this comes out,
you go watch it for Christmas.
Go watch it on Christmas. Make it a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I thought it was really. I still enjoyed it all these years later. I say check it out.
Yeah.
I think it was his best. I mean, and I liked, you know, the '90s Kevin Smith for sure. So
sure.
So there you go.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Back in '99. We'll see you again on the next one.
Later.